Thank you, and welcome to the Zagreb Digital Nomad Week for our day one keynote speaker on the theme of cybersecurity. We're here at the Canopy by Hilton, and I will now pass it to our speaker, Marko Rakar.
Thank you. Welcome to Croatia. So I hope you will have a great time while in Zagreb and in Croatia in general. So we are going to talk about cybersecurity today. So I'm not going to be very technical, but some technical terms will be discussed, and I will show you some really technical stuff which you don't have to remember at all. It's just an illustration of how complex the thing is. So you just have to remember that things which are hard and which are easy. So don't worry about it. If you are really interested in my presentation, you can either contact me and I will send you a copy, or the organizers, and they will send you a copy. In the notes of the presentation, you have a huge number of different links which cover particular topics in deep detail. So this is designed to be like an introduction to the cybersecurity theme. So it's not a comprehensive guide. A lot of it is generalized, so it's not necessarily completely accurate. So it's simplified so that anyone can easily follow. So we are going to talk a little bit about passwords, because passwords are essentials on the internet. Very tiny bit about social media and what dangers are there for us on social media. We are going to talk about mobile, but not necessarily in the sense of mobile phones or us moving, but talking about our devices and how they operate and what we can do to protect ourselves, and a little bit about email. And basically anything which covers email will cover the cloud as well. So everything is cloud now, so you don't have to think about it too much. So the technical stuff. So today, almost all devices we have, from mobile phones to computers to our communication between our computer, our phone, towards almost any internet service is encrypted in some way. So if you browse the internet, you will see that most of the websites have this little padlock on the side of the URL, which means that the communication between you and that particular website is encrypted. Encryption, which is mostly in use today, is called AES, A-E-S, and it's considered to be extremely safe. So there are different ways of using this particular encryption. Some of them are not so safe, some of them are, but what is important is that when you see that something is AES encrypted, you can consider it safe. So if there is anything else, or if you are using a product which uses some kind of proprietary encryption, then you shouldn't consider it safe for use, or you shouldn't consider it bulletproof safe, that in a sense that someone cannot intercept or interpret what you are typing. The basic difference is, so let's say if you use WhatsApp use proprietary encryption algorithm, which is, so we are told, based on AES encryption, but we don't know what exactly they are doing with our data. On the other hand, if you use Signal, Signal code is publicly available and it was audited, and we know for a fact that they use AES encryption, and we consider Signal as a very, very safe product to use. The other things which you need to know a little bit when you talk about encryption is hashing. Hashing is a way of securing the data. So, for example, when you type your password, you really don't want that the server or a computer on the other end actually writes that password on a hard drive. So what they are actually using is they're using hash mathematical formula, which will make a very, very unique but very, very long like string of 64, 128, 256 characters, which will uniquely define your password. In that way, server on the other end doesn't know your password really, but when you type your password, it will execute that mathematical formula and compare if the result is exactly the same compared to what is written on the server. The problem is that if you have a simple password like password 1234 and you make a hash out of it because the hash formulas are exactly the same everywhere. So if you write it down, then you know what is the hash value of password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever. And if you want to make a real secure product, then you will combine so-called salt with the data you want to encrypt. So, for example, if you want to safely store someone's password, you will use password he's typing, some secret phrase which is known only to a guy who developed the application, and then these two strings combined will create hash. I will explain how it works a little bit later. So again, ICE, just so you have like a rough idea how hard it is to guess or to crack that particular password, you have like a huge number of possibilities which can be created by ICE encryption. And bottom line, which you have to know, so if the universe is 14 billion years old, then you will take almost 7 times and then like 4 powers up of that time to crack the password you are actually using if it's stored with if that particular phrase or whatever you are sending is encrypted with ICE encryption. So that's simply a scale of numbers of possibilities which are covered with ICE encryption. Or if you want to put it another way, if we say that 1 and 0, the difference between 1 and 0 in a computer is a 1 Kelvin of energy, like 1 Celsius, then the number of possibilities will have more weight than the whole sum of the universe. So you are safe, more or less. Nice. So the hashing, again, as it says here, a hash is a function which is a unique identifier for any given piece of information, and it will, regardless of the phrase you are having, the number of characters or whatever, it will always create a string with exactly the same length, always. So if you have only 4 characters, or you say only password, make a hash out of it, you will get a string with predetermined size. If you put a whole song and make a hash out of it, you will still get exactly the same length of numbers of characters, but they will be unique to that particular phrase. And these are the options for a little bit about solving. So if you look at Steve, top left. So if you look at Steven and his password and Sarah and her password, you will see that they are exactly the same. And then if you make a hash out of it, you will get some kind of long string. But you will notice that in that particular case, the hash is exactly the same for Steven and Sarah. So anyone who has a dictionary of possible passwords, and there are a lot of passwords which are already cracked for different reasons, if they notice that particular hash, they will know that the password is exactly as written to the left side. So that's the reason why we use salt. It's like, you know, when you are cooking something and then you put a little bit of salt in. Some people want it saltier, some people want it without salt, and so on. So if you put that secret ingredient in, then the hash for Steven and hash for Sarah will be completely different. I mean, completely. It's not that one or two characters will be different. So, you know, the beautiful thing about hashes is that you make a tiniest change and they will look completely different. So the hash will end up being different. I mean, any remotely serious website or service in the world hashes and solves their passwords now. If you come across a web service or whatever, which will allow you, you know, you ask them for a password and then they text you back or send email with your password as a text, then run. You know, that's not a safe service to use. So, I mean, as far as hacking goes, you know, in cybersecurity world, paranoia is always a great thing to have. And we say you are either hacked or you don't know that you have been hacked. So, passwords again. Yeah, I have amateurishly created this pyramid of levels, and this is like my personal suggestion on how it should look, how the hierarchy of your account should look like. And basically, I would say that you have a one device, which is your main computer you are using, and that particular computer should be protected by really complex and unique passwords. And I will tell you a little bit later what a complex and unique password exactly is. Depending on the type of computer you are using, you should use the other methods of hardening the security of that particular computer, which means that first of all, I mean, good practice for anyone is to have fully updated computer at all times, because a lot of new attacks are covered with monthly patches. So for every second Tuesday in a month, you will get security patch from Microsoft to fix whatever was discovered in the last month. And they will patch a lot of things which you don't know that there are security issues. So you really need to take care of your computer and update everything. Then you can also, on Windows, you have a possibility to use PINs. So they are not going to use password at all. So you will log in for the very first time with a username and a password, and then it will ask you to create a unique PIN for that particular device. That way, you don't have to type your password every time you log on, but something unique for that particular computer. Then you will have your email account. So a lot of us probably have many email accounts, but you are probably setting them up so that all of them will eventually lead to the one email account which you consider your main personal account. And that personal account, the personal email account, is basically a center of your digital identity. And you have to protect it in all possible ways you can imagine. So again, my suggestion is to use highly complex and unique password, which is not used anywhere else. It was never written on a piece of paper, never said up, spoken out loud. We simply don't talk about our password to anyone under any circumstance. And if possible, if you are paranoid enough, you will use two-factor authentication device of some kind. So I will show you a couple of them in a bit. The third tier of security considers, in my opinion, to any service which hold your financial account, which means if you have an Amazon account, if you have any other Netflix account, and they will hold your credit card number. So again, for them, you will again use complex password, something which is again, if possible, unique, or you will have like a first tier level password, which is almost the same on all websites, but there is a slight variation to it, which means either a numerical one, either a couple of I don't know, password 1234, Google one, password 1234, Netflix, or something like that. But not never use password 1234. So, some of these services also support two-factor authentication, so if possible, use regular use services, which are basically, I don't know, newspapers, different web portals of any kind of website which will store your username and password, and it doesn't collect your personal information in any way. Something which you simply have to type in order to consume content from that service. Then you can use like regular passwords, which are of course very complex, but you don't have to really worry about that, because if someone breaks into that particular service and steals your password, they're not going to learn anything particularly dangerous for yourself. So you can be a little bit less careful on that one. And all other services, for those you can create one-time passwords which are really easy to remember, which can be always the same, and which you use basically only because they annoy you with asking you for creating an account there. So you don't have to worry about that, let them worry about their own security afterwards. Now, what is the complex password for a computer? I mean, you will see that if you look at the top left panel of the cartoon. So we are usually trained that we need to have like small characters, caps lock characters, numbers, special characters, or whatever, and it needs to be particular length or so on. And the problem with this password is that they're really hard to remember, and they're very easy for a computer to guess it. So what I suggest, and a lot of other people suggest, that the key is in the length of your password. So remember a poem, opening sentence or closing sentence of a novel, or anything which is remotely important to you and which you will always remember, like a sentence or something. If you want it, you can spice it up with the little numbers and special characters, but the key is to have a very, very long password. So looking at the computer strength and possibilities of like guessing the password, basically, if you have 15 characters or more for a password, you are more or less safe. So that's like a guided one. If you have less than 12, you are already probably. So that's about password. So the second thing is like two-factor authentication, which means in a computer security or security in general, two-factor authentication is a process where you have to use something you know with something you have. So if you think about the bank card, this particular card is like a crowd-tourism card. Nobody really understands why it's used, but basically a bank card with some money on it. If you go to an ATM machine or you pay something, they will ask you to produce something you have, which is the card. It's like a physical object, one of a kind, so it cannot be duplicated, and something which is a PIN number. Now, if you have a credit card or a debit card like this, you can basically move billions of US dollars or euros from one part of the world to the next, because the bank is reasonably sure that it's you, because you own the device and you know the PIN to activate it. So, and this is basically the very root of all cybersecurity. So, if you have something physical, to help you authenticate, it will decrease the possibility of hacking on order of magnitude, and not one order of magnitude, on 10 order of magnitude. So if you have a possibility to use two-factor authentication, then use it. One of the options is so this on the picture is YubiKey. It's a Swedish company, and they provide these crypto chips which can be inserted into a notebook or a phone. And when you want to log into some service, they will ask you to press the button. So you will physically have to press the button in order to activate the device. The device itself has a small computer on it, tiny one, and the computer basically asks the computer send some string of numbers. When you press the button, it processes these numbers and returns something to the computer, and then the computer will know if the combination is right, if the key is correct. It will get correct response from the key, and that will allow you to log in. So you can use this kind of keys on just about any type of service. You can use it for a Windows logon, Mac logon, Linux logon, or whatever, but you can also use it for web services like Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, and so on. Another type of authentication is so-called Authenticators Applications, or tokens. They are called tokens sometimes, and they are basically also sending the question to your app, which is either a string of numbers or like a QR code, like this one. It is connected with the time, so it will use a question, mesh it with the exact time at that point, and then when you type it into your Authenticator app, it will create a string as a response, which you will enter to the website, and if the time and the answer is correct, then it will allow you to continue using that particular service. So you probably have that somewhere. I don't know. In my case, my bank uses similar protocols. WhatsApp, basically, if you use a web client for WhatsApp, it uses exactly the same scheme and so on. The least reliable two-factor authentication, but still better than nothing, is to use your phone as a token device, in a sense that when you log into some service, it will send you an SMS, like short message to your phone, and then you have to type that code. So a lot of services use this, but depending on what you are exactly doing and who are you against, this is not a very safe way of authenticating yourself, because some people, let's say, have ability to either clone your phone and then intercept the SMS message, and if you happen to be of interest to the government of any kind, then they will surely have a way to intercept the SMS. So if you have to use SMS, use it. It's better than using nothing, but you have to be aware that SMS can be rerouted. Someone can pretend to be you, and so on. So GSM protocol, it used to be safe in late 80s and early 90s, but it's not very safe today. And of course, SMS messages are plain text, so they are not encrypted in any way. And when they travel from one point of the world to another, they can be monitored on any of the hubs that they are using to get to you. By the way, like a fun fact for digital nomads in Croatia, Infobit is the largest provider of SMS messages in the world. So basically, any SMS message you get on your phone, it went through Infobit service. So people are not aware of that particular bit of information, but it's a first generation technological unicorn as well. They're really, really smart people, and they are doing the same thing for more or less for WhatsApp, Viber, and other things. So your phone will suggest you that you use biometric, like a fingerprint reader. But I would say that if you want to look for a place where there are a lot of your fingerprints, it would be a phone. So, you can go to YouTube and recreate someone's fingerprint quite easily. So, you can use it, but it's disabled on all of my devices. So, it's quite, and besides, if someone is really intense, they will either steal your phone and make you open it. So, like, too big. In security, you can be really, really smart about guessing someone's password, or you can go to a hardware store and buy a €5 camera, and people will volunteer to take it. So, it's a fact. It's happening. So I was thinking about digital nomads and what is very specific about digital nomads, and it's Nomad part of that, which is specific for all of you. And I would say that the phishing attack is the one you are most vulnerable to, which means that and phishing attacks are currently, with ransomware, they're the most popular type of attacks available. So what that means is that someone will either break your Google account or Outlook account or whatever account you're using. You'll try to identify who your friends and close contacts are, and then they will send an email to your friends saying, I happen to be stuck at the airport or for whatever reason. And in your case, that will look particularly believable because the people you are contacting know that you are actually traveling a lot. And that is a scenario which can actually happen to any of you. So one more reason to have your email accounts as safe as possible. So what you can do is you can type your email to a website, Have I Been Phoned? And they have, as you can see, so this was a screenshot from this morning. So they have like 11 billion, the database of 11 billion phone accounts. So if you type your email or emails you are using into this website, they will inform you which website you have visited and created your account have been compromised in any way, and that will mean that someone out there might have the hash of your password. So if, for example, if you put my account on it, they'll tell you that Dropbox was compromised at some point in time, which I don't care because I don't use Dropbox. I mean, I had an account there, but I don't store anything there. And it was like a long time ago, and I changed my password in the meantime. And this will also show me that LinkedIn was compromised at some point in time, and my password might be included in that one. So that means that, you know, if they say in March of 2017 that particular service was hacked, and if you are still using the same password, your account is at risk. And you should think about changing password, even to two-factor authentication, and so on. So just a little bit about social media, because it's really a long story to go in that direction. But I would say that, you know, the combination of your email account plus your social media account is basically your digital identity, basically who you are. And combination of ownership of that account is proving that you are actually you. So you have to be careful of which services you use and how you use them. So I know that it might sound overcautious to say that you have to fight for your Instagram account or Twitter account, but if someone takes hold of it, then they can approach any number of friends of yours, and they can, there are huge number of very different and innovative schemes people are using to trick someone into either giving more data about you or getting money or whatever. So you should really be cautious. So this particular slide is from Amnesty International, and they are basically talking about which application uses what kind of encryption. I did a talk like a couple of months ago about the safety of using different messenger services, and the keyword you want to look for is end-to-end encryption, and that means that when I type my message on WhatsApp on my phone and send it to Paul, the message will be encrypted all the way from my phone to his phone. So there is nobody in between who can actually read it. They might copy the content of the message, but the message itself will be encrypted with the key, which is only available and known to Paul and me. So it's completely safe. So the government cannot, or anyone else, they simply cannot read the content of that message. They might learn that we have communicated for some reason or the other. If they analyze, the data traffic between me and Paul carefully, they might understand what kind of content we have exchanged, how we talk, because the voice packets on the internet have distinctive look, or have we exchanged pictures or some documents, or we just typed each other. So they can learn that, but they cannot know the content of our communication. And for some services, this end-to-end encryption is optional, so you have to manually turn it on. And some services, they don't have end-to-end encryption, and there are servers in between which can open these messages and read it. And also, it's basically very, very tiny font, so it's unreadable. But you have to be aware that different services collect different amounts of data about you. So the top left is Signal, so they simply don't connect any data about you except your phone number. iMessages from Apple platform, WhatsApp a little bit more, but this WhatsApp box is increasing steadily. And to the right is Facebook Messenger. It's most amazing of all. I don't have Facebook Messenger installed anywhere, and you shouldn't have it at all. So it's like a scary stuff. Usually when I talk about phones and what can you do, then I say a phone is a tracking device which can be used to make calls. So it's ridiculous. So let's go to the hardware side. So the other thing I was thinking about what might be important to digital nomads is basically your notebook is everything. So everything you have is on it. So if it gets stolen, you don't want this data to fall in enemy's hands. So one of the easiest things you can do is if you have basically all computers, like regardless of the operating system, Linux, Windows, or Mac, they all have their own versions of this. So you have to look for a particular solution if you are Linux or Mac. But one of the easiest things you can do is to have BitLocker encryption for Windows. In order to use BitLocker on Windows, you need to have Pro version of Windows. All versions cannot use encryption. But if it's Pro or better, then you simply turn it on. Prerequisite for using BitLocker is not only Windows Pro, but your notebook needs to have so-called TPM chip. It's a chip. It's basically like a. It's exactly the same principle you are using on your bank card. So it's a chip which is embedded, which only communicates with the computer when asked about something. I mean, most of notebooks have it. Older ones maybe don't, but it's a requirement. BitLocker will encrypt your hard disk, and if someone steals your notebook without your password or without an encryption key from BitLocker, which, by the way, you have to, when you start the encryption process, it will ask you to back up the encryption key. So you really need to back that up. Because if something happens, there is nobody on this planet who will help you unlock that hard drive. So if someone gets your notebook, which is BitLocker encrypted, then you are more or less safe. So they will have the notebook, they can reformat it and start using it their own, but the data on the computer itself is going to be completely unusable for them. They are not even going to be able to start the operating system without typing in proper encryption key or your password. So BitLocker is like the easiest thing to do if you want to protect your data. The second thing you can do is to use so-called EFS. So it's again Windows version, but you have exactly the same or similar functions on Linux or Mac. EFS is highest encrypted system on top of whatever you are running. So it's perfectly possible to have a notebook like mine, which is BitLocker encrypted by definition, but BitLocker encryption is on a hardware level. So operating system doesn't know that the computer is encrypted. EFS, on the other hand, is something on the level of operating system, and if you have a EFS encrypted file, even its color on your desktop or in your folder will be a little bit different. So you will recognize that you have EFS encrypted file. So if you are really like paranoid or you work with a lot of financial data and so on, then the normal procedure if you are working with sensitive data is to have BitLocker and EFS. So if you have any data which is classified for some reason or the other, your computer is not considered safe unless it has EFS or EFS equivalent on some other operating system. If you are really scared about your data, there are things like this USB. This is the old picture. So now you have USB 3 point something padlock. So these are basically like USB keys, like standard ones, but they have a small keypad on themselves. So when you insert it in a computer, they will ask you for a pin to be typed in order to unlock the USB key. And now, depending on your level of paranoia, you can program it to either self-destruct after 10 unsuccessful pins or erase the drive. So that's an option. It's quite expensive. I mean, compared to a normal USB stick, but it's not that expensive. So you have some sensitive data which you have to store somewhere. For example, the backup of your BitLocker key and EFS key, you put it on a stick like this, and all of that you put in a bank, which is of course somewhere in a different legal jurisdiction, and then you are more or less safe. But it also means that when a computer based, there is a travel involved. So don't ask me how I know. So the other thing which I would say is also important is your phone or computer notifications. So it doesn't really mean to have like a safe two-factor authentication, which will send you a code and then you're locked. And I hope your phone is locked always, or computer. It will automatically lock down. I hope, after like half a minute. So all of that two-factor authentication stuff doesn't mean anything if people can read from the message from your locked phone. So if you get sensitive message on WhatsApp or sensitive SMS or your, I don't know, Google app will tell you, well, you have, if you see this notification, you have to choose number 53 on your computer to log into account. So one of the things you can do, again, on Android and Apple, is that you can say that notifications are private, which means that if the device is locked at the time, it will show you that there is something, there is a message for you from WhatsApp or some other app, but it will not show you the content of that particular message. So you still have to write PIN. And by the way, if you use PINs, and I hope you use them on your phones, they have to be at least 6 numbers. So less than 6 is considered unsafe. Computers in general, in like a short interview I did for Croatia, I said that one of the golden rules is having a procedure and follow that procedure every single time. This means that, for example, I will never ever log into any of my accounts from a computer which I don't own. If it's not my computer, I'm not going to log in. It's as simple as that. I mean, computer is always with me, phone is always with me. It can technically happen that sometimes you are going, you don't bring your computer and you need it for some reason or the other. I recall I went once to Vienna, so it's like a 4-hour drive from Zagreb, and I suddenly needed access to some of my servers. So you go to a shop, you buy a tablet or something for 100 euros, configure it, do your work, and you have a business present for someone when you get back. So it's really important not to leave your data on someone else's computer. And if you do that, then again, be sure that all the data is wiped out after you stop using it. So, and again, if you're really paranoid, you do that every day on your own computer. So, my computer is set up in a way that it will reset itself every single day for security reasons. So if someone gets hold of my computer and if it manages to log in, which is unlikely, and then opens the computer in order to understand, where I was surfing or what, you will get a freshly installed file. By the way, don't use the for the very same reason you are not using the Facebook Messenger. So as an additional level of security, you can also install a plugin for your browser, which is called HTTPS Everywhere. It's a plugin developed by Electronic Frontier Foundation. EFF is a great resource for all things security and privacy, about security and privacy. And this particular plugin will force your computer to try to establish an encrypted link with whoever is on the other side. And that particular plugin was really useful in previous years, but today, even Google forces people to use HTTPS, so it's not as important today as it was in the past, but still it's very, very nice to have it installed, and it will screen, across all the screen if you happen to end up on a server or a service which is not properly protected. Option which you also have is to use VPN servers. A lot of people are talking about using VPN servers. I'm not that particularly. I'm not that big fan of VPN servers. They make sense, especially if you log on to your company's network, then you need to have a VPN. But for general browsing or general use of internet, I wouldn't say they're as important as they were in the past. But you can use it. The best use of VPN server is to watch US Netflix, for example. But you can do that. And if you are using the public Wi-Fi, you have to understand that when your computer connects to a Wi-Fi network, it emits some kind of signal which can be intercepted by any computer in the vicinity. And that means that that particular computer can get a copy of all the data you are sending and all the data you are supposed to be receiving. It means that if all of us connect now to our same Wi-Fi access point, I or anyone else can install a software called Fireship. In this particular case, they can install the software and they will try to intercept all the data you are trying to send when logging on to Facebook or Google or something else, and they will try to figure out your username, password, and so on. So it's a possibility. I said to Paul this morning that I used to give a lecture on cybersecurity to an international conference of judges. And while I was talking about cybersecurity, I was a little bit hacking their phones and computers in the audience. So they were very unhappy afterwards, but they understood the lesson. So you have to be careful what you're doing on a public Wi-Fi. Some of you probably have blogs or some other platforms for publishing data. And one of the things which you have to be aware that any web application out there is possibly vulnerable to some kind of attacks. So someone can attack your WordPress-based blog and get the data out of it. So WordPress, the core of WordPress, and WordPress runs about 70% of the web, is pretty safe. So people who are developing it are very security conscious, but still you can use some other CMS solutions which are not as safe. Or what happens is that you might be using some of the plugins for your WordPress installation, which will make your WordPress unsafe. So the core of the WordPress itself can be considered safe, but if you are using plugins or themes, some of them might make your blog or website or e-commerce website unsafe. So you should be aware of it. And that would be all from me for today. And if there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
With regards to that, you said the fingerprint was very, very low. What about the Face ID? Because a lot of phones have gone away from fingerprint, gone to Face ID.
I don't believe in biometrics at all, so I don't use it. So I mean, there are people who are faking just about anything. So they will print your face and do all kinds of stuff. Put a heater, behind the paper, to simulate your body heat. And there are different ways of faking it. They will take 4 of your pictures, create 3D model, print on it, heat it, and then they will still, if they are really motivated, they are going to get in. I mean, it's like, if you are defending yourself from amateurs, then a normal password will be enough. If you are against someone really, really motivated and proficient at the same time, then you are basically in trouble. So you have to, put either the minimum effort or the maximum effort. But basically, if you put like a few simple rules, such as complex password, do not repeat them, log in from your own device, and your own device is encrypted. I mean, basically all phones that you buy now are encrypted by definition. You are quite safe. If you receive a message from someone with a strange application or PDF or something, you have to be careful what you are opening. And this kind. I mean, the way the people are compromised usually. So, for example, if you want to rob a bank. No, so you don't have to go to the wall. I mean, that's stupid. So you have to find the dumbest person in the bank, and then you give them some report on USB stick, and they will put it in their computer, and they will try to do something with it. They will start a virus or malware or whatever. It won't work, and they will create a problem. But you don't have to worry about it because the dumbest person in the bank, for a reason, doesn't have access to important stuff. But what will happen is that when they report some kind of problem with that particular computer somewhere, then the administrator will come, and he has access to everything. So he will type his username and password on a compromised computer, and then you are in, more or less. And then you just find a way to the next level, and so on. So you just have to think about really smart people who are willing to compromise something, they are going to find unbelievable ways of doing it. There was a virus called Stuxnet, like 10 years ago. So it's like a piece of art, more or less. So it was a virus designed to destroy uranium enrichment plants, which means that this was a virus designed to be transferred through USB sticks or CD-ROMs or whatever to a computer which is not connected to internet in order to influence a machine which is not Windows or Linux based. So if someone figures out a way to do it from like 5,000 kilometers away, then they're going to find a way to compromise your phone or computer or something. So, the normal way of compromising someone is to install some kind of keylogger or some kind of malware on your phone, which will monitor what you are typing in and where. And the really smart software will figure out when you open the and enter your PIN. So you have unlocked your phone, and then when he discovers that you have unlocked your phone, he will pretend that it's not there. So that's probably it's really well
The technology is obviously advancing, and the hackers are getting smarter. Is there a chance that they'll actually lose that war? We have big data breaches already in certain big corporations.
We are going to.
Well,
We are going to.
but think scenario. I don't know.
Yeah, as I said at the beginning, you were either hacked or you don't know you have been hacked. So or you are going to be hacked very soon. So you are not in line yet. You have received your number on the machine, but they have not called your number yet. So
And what happens now? So my phone, I've switched it off. Let's say. That doesn't mean that I'm not being monitored.
again, it depends who is monitoring. So, we can talk about this as well. So, procedure in any country, and Croatia is not an exception. If you are a foreigner in Croatia, your calls and will be monitored. It doesn't mean that they are going to be listened to, but someone will collect where you have been and who you called or texted or something like that. So it's simply a fact. It will happen to you exactly the same in Austria, in US, especially in US. Don't forget about Israel or really paranoid states. But they are simply going to monitor that. There is like 99.9999 chance that nobody will ever look at the data or examine it or question about it, but you have to be aware that it happens. So it's simply a fact. It would be unreasonable from the point of security apparatus of a particular state not to monitor visitors. So it's a fact. So there's nothing to be especially worried about. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Thank you, Marko, and thank you for everyone here live in person at Canopy, Hilton, and online. The rest of today, day one, we have a happy hour starting at 5 p.m. open to the public, and a walking tour by Secret Zagreb at 7 p.m. So